Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's a bonus deck profile for you guys today. This time it's actually on an Edison Format deck, specifically my Lightsworn deck. Now Edison Format, for those who have no idea what this is, it's basically a format that revolved around SJC Edison. And during that time, nobody really knew what the best deck was. And funny enough, people just brought in like a huge variety of decks just to play. And since then, because of how short-lived this format was, people have been trying to break this format, and you'd be surprised how many playable decks they actually are in this format. Blackwing is arguably the best deck, but Lightsworn is also pretty good. There's Diva Warrior, Quick Draw, Dandy Warrior. So like, there's a lot of cool variety with this format, and honestly, it's considered one of the most fair formats ever. And what else was I gonna say? Oh, and for recently, it's been picking up a lot in popularity. Like, a lot of people have been wanting to do legacy tournaments for Edison. And who knows, maybe regionals might start picking up on this. I know they do GOAT tournaments, but I would really like to see Edison Format tournaments at regionals sometimes. So, but anyway, yeah, like lately I've been playing a lot of Edison with a friend, and yeah, it's just been really fun, reliving this format. So anyway, I'll show you what I guys got, and yeah, let's get started. My main deck, if I'm not mistaken, is 42 cards, starting off with 2 copies of Judgment Dragon. Judgment Dragon, it's obviously a big blowout card, especially if you're on Lightsworns. You have 4 different monsters at different names. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And basically pay 1,000 life points. Not once per turn, by the way. Just nuke the whole field. And of course, during the end phase, you have to mill the top 4 cards of your deck, but that's really not an issue. Next up, 3 copies of Wolf. Definitely have 3 of them to deck. Some people, you could play this at 2 if you want, but 3 is the ideal number simply because you need it for fodder for solar recharge. And considering how many times you're going to be milling in this deck, it's definitely good just to, just to have that big body out, Next, 2 copies of Lila. It's spell and trap card removal, plus it mills the top 3 cards of your deck. 2 Raikou, a great flip monster, just the fact that, pops any card on the field and then mill the top 3 cards of your deck. It's usually the best way to out cards like Vanity's Fiend, because Vanity's Fiend is playable in this format. There's also cards like anything that's just big, like something that could be a threat, like going back to Diva Warrior, since they like to turbo out Absolute Zero, just pop it and you pretty much just solved a problem there. But just bear in mind, Stardust Dragon is in the format, as you clearly saw in my extra deck. So you gotta know when to use Raikou. 1 Celestia, 1 Jane, 1 Garroth, 1 Aaron, and lastly 1 Luminatus to round out my Lightsworn package. Some people like to run Arcus. I was trying it out at first, but Arcus just wasn't doing much for me, so I decided to cut him. Some people also like to run 2 Celestia. I kind of dabbled between like 1 or 2, but I think 1 is just fine. And of course, 2 copies of Honest to kind of go with our whole light package, because I am running some dark, so just to let y'all know that ahead of time. And yeah. Oops. All right. So moving on here. Next up, we got 1 copy of Dark Arm Dragon. It is limited in this format, but since I don't run very many dark, it's pretty easy for me to summon this out. Also got Gorse, which is actually a major staple in this format. I mean, it's only at 1, but still, like Gorse, the fact that it summons itself once you take battle damage, and you get to summon a token equal to the damage you took. So yeah, Gorse is just crazy good. Also got Tragodia, which is just a better Slifer the Sky Dragon. 1 Chaos Sork, just the fact that it banishes. 1 Card Trooper. 1 Necrogardna. Another good staple I like to run is Neospatial Granmole. Just the fact that it outs cards like Vanity's Fiend, it outs Stardust Dragon, even outs Catester, which we'll get into momentarily. But yeah, Neospatial Granmole is just comes in clutch whenever you need it. Unlike most Lightsworn decks, I actually run 1 copy of Dandelion just because it's just good to maintain board presence. And sometimes if I need like those tokens, it just helps me manipulate the levels a little bit more to go into better synchro plays if I have to. Meaning like because the tokens are level 1s, that's why. But anyway, moving on. I am running Debris Dragon, not only because it's just an additional tuner, but the fact that it can bring back one of your monsters that's 500 attack or less. And of course, it just helps you go into any of your Dragon Synchros, I know it's not a Blackwing deck, but I like to run the 1 Gale the Whirlwind. Same reason it's a tuner, but I do like its effect where it has an attack monster or a monster that your opponent controls, and just helps you run over them. And of course, 1 Plague Spirit Zombie. Almost every deck runs Plague Spirit Zombie, so yeah, there's no reason not to. Alright, so now we're moving on to spells. Playing 3 copies of Solar Recharge, obviously pitch 1 Lightsworn, draw 2 cards, and then mill 2 cards. Next, 2 Gold Sark, a really great card, semi-limited in this format, so yeah, definitely run this at 2. I run 2 Pot of Avarice. It is actually at 3 in this format, but I decided just to run 2 because 3 was kind of bricky. And yeah, Pot of Avarice, like if I mill cards that I need later, it just helps me bring them back. 1 Charge of the Light Brigade. It is limited, unfortunately, but it still comes in clutch whenever you have it. 1 Heavy Storm. It is legal. Same thing with Giant Trinity, both legal at 1. MST is also limited. 1 Foolish Burial. 2 copies of Beckoning Light. This card's just really good because, like, if you, again, going back to what I was saying, if you accidentally mill the cards you need, specifically your Judgment Dragons, you can pitch your whole hand, add back the same number of lights that you pitched. And yeah, it's just a great way to recycle your resources. And just a good blowout card, 1 Torrential Tribute. Alright, moving on to the extra deck. Extra deck is pretty standard for any Edison Format deck. 1 Stardust Dragon. It's actually at 3, but I only like to run it at 1. 1 Red Dragon Archfiend because he's huge. Black Rose Dragon, so if people hit me with Light Imprisoning Mirror, at least have a way to just nuke the whole board, so Black Rose Dragon definitely comes up whenever it needs to. Ancient Fairy Dragon's just a big body. 1 Brio. 1 Goyo Guardian, and of course with the pre-errata you can use any tuner, not an actual Earth tuner specifically, but yeah, Goyo Guardian's pretty broken. 1 Colossal Fighter. 1 Thought Ruler Archfiend. Dark End Dragon. This is actually the card I was waiting for in the mail, but I like it because the fact that it's a good way to power down your opponent's well, actually it's a good way to just send monsters off your opponent's side of the field. So like and the cool thing is that it doesn't target, it just sends, and it doesn't even destroy either. So yeah, a great way just to deal with certain just annoying threats. 1 Avenging Knight Parshath. 1 Doomkaiser Dragon. Tempest Magician. Allige's Catastor. This is probably one of the best synchro monsters to play during Edison. 1 Magical Android if I need to regain some life points. And finally, Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. I am running Sidra on the side deck, and just about a lot of decks are playing Sidra in their side decks too, because like there are several machine decks, like there's a Machina deck and so forth. So like you'd be surprised like how many times Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon can come up. Speaking of the side deck, 2 copies of Cyber Dragon because it is semi-limited. 2 DD Crow. 2 Caius the Shadow Monarch. 1 Rise of the Storm Monarch. So yeah, I do like to run Monarchs on this side just because, again, like threats like Light Imprisoning Mirror is in the format, and or just cards that like Royal Oppression. So it's just a good way for me to like deal with some of these things. Also running a 2nd Dandelion if I really have to. 2 Lightning Vortex. 3 Shadow Imprisoning Mirror just to deal with like Black Wings or like heroes in general. And for those wondering why I'm on Lightning Vortex, Darkhold and Raigeki are still banned, so that's why. And finally, 2 copies of Royal Decree. It's also semi-limited, but it's a good way to deal with like traps. Because like, yeah, Royal Oppression is also legal in this format, so, and I don't want to deal with Royal Oppression. So anyway, well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.